everybody. My name's Adam. I'm Adam of Adam D Photography. I'm going to be going over this webinar with you. This is about tethering. I'm sure a lot of you have had experience with tethering, and maybe some of you haven't had experience with tethering. If you haven't, it's great. You're going to learn a lot today. When it comes to tethering in a studio, you're going to need a few things. One main thing, you're going to need a camera, and that camera has to have a USB out so you can connect it to your computer. Some older cameras don't have them. My camera happens to have a USB-C. Some cameras have the older USB 2.0. Some of them have the USB minis. They all work as long as you're able to connect it to a computer and get it up and running. I'm running Canon right now. Word of advice, sometimes when you are running a camera tethered, the native software, when you plug a cord in, will try to open up. That can interfere with Evoto running the software. So make sure you turn that off, and then Evoto can take over from there. So again, first thing you're going to need is a camera. The second thing you're going to need is going to be a tethered cable. And what I want to tell you about the tethered cables is there are different levels of tethered cables. You can have a really cheap tethered cable, like $10, $9. You can have like a mid-range, 25 to 35, and then of course a lot of us know about those very expensive cables. One thing I want to say is never buy the cheap ones. Those almost always go bad, and there's usually not enough data transfer for the cameras and the computers to keep up. This one happens to be one of those mid-range, around $30. The expensive ones, those are great too, but eventually they're all going to go bad. It's just nature of the beast. So make sure you buy yourself a decent cable. It's going to last you for a good amount of time before you have to buy another one. And if you do a lot of tethering, have a backup cable. Hopefully there's nothing going to happen with this cable today. The next thing you're going to need, of course, is a computer and a monitor. Right now I am running everything in, you can see, landscape mode, because in order for me to stream this, we have to be in landscape mode. A lot of times when we're doing tethered, we do rotate to, the monitors can rotate to portrait mode. I'm going to show you a little bit of that later on, but for now we're just going to leave it in landscape mode because I'm going to have to switch over to that scene shortly. So of course you have to have your computer. Once you have all your stuff, and another thing, a good thing to have, and I'm going to show you this, you want to have a locking mechanism that can lock down your cable to your camera. This is very important because if you're in the middle of a tethered shoot, this cable here can come out if you accidentally step on it, or they're just loose to begin with. So you lock it to the camera itself, and then no matter how much I yank on it, it's not going to come out of the camera. A lot of people will also put a lock with their computer. Unfortunately today I don't have one, so I have a model here, and one of our friends is here as well, and hopefully no one's going to step on the cables and knock them out. The reason I don't have it plugged in yet is because I'm going to plug it in when we switch to the next scene. I'm going to bring up Evoto, and we're going to get started on how to start running the program, how to get everything set up from here. So again, camera, tethered cable, a lock, a computer, and a monitor. Now we're going to get started with Evoto itself. So now that you can see the screen, I have Evoto set up here on the screen. It's up to you guys if you want to see me as well. What I'll do is I'll bring myself back into the picture so I can show you how I'm doing this. So I've got my camera here, I've got my cable. What I personally like to do is I'll plug my cable into my camera with the camera off. Then I will plug the cable into the computer. From there, a lot of times when you are tethered, and this unfortunate thing that happens a lot, is sometimes you have to unplug your cable, plug it back in, unplug, plug it back in. This happens with every tether device, and actually a lot of devices, some microphones. Today when I went to plug in my microphones, I had to unplug them, plug it back in before they started functioning. I find that when I plug into my camera first, and it all depends on your brand of camera, when I plug in now to Evoto, I'm going to turn my camera on actually, and then I'm going to plug into my computer. And as you can see at the top of the screen there, way up there, camera connected successfully came on. Now I'm going to switch back to just Evoto so you can see something. We're going to start, when you start with a project within Evoto, you're going to create a new project. And we're going to use this, and we're going to call this project Tethered. just a project name that just for today. You can, most of the time you're going to want to name it, let's say after your client, because that's going to tell you who's in the shoot. You'll have a folder that'll say Tethered. And we're going to save that. That's going to open a new one. On the bottom here, if everyone can see, it says Tethered Shooting. It's blue now because I do have a camera plugged in. I want you to look over here to the right of your screen where the Tethered Shooting icon is. There's a little white dot under that. That white dot also says that you are connected to your camera, other than all the camera information you now see. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually run over what you see on the screen. Take a second to go through this. At the top, you're going to have a histogram. Don't think of this as a live histogram. This histogram will reflect the photos that you're looking at any time. It's a live photo when the photos show up here, but it's not live to the actual view that you're seeing through your camera. Underneath that, you have your camera information. It shows you your shutter speed, your aperture. It shows you what your ISO is. And as you change it on the camera itself, see my ISO is going down. I'm going to be shooting today at ISO 100. You also see if your exposure, you're positive or negative, if you use that. You're going to see your color temperature and what you're shooting. All this information here is including your focusing, I have it set to 1 shot, your shooting mode. All this here is the camera's information. Unfortunately, this cannot be changed through the app itself, through the program itself. The only thing that's actually functional in this program is the shutter release. But I tend to never really use that because there's a delay, and that's with every tethered program you use, there will be a delay, and pretty much your hands are going to be on the camera. Beneath that, you have your camera settings. These are the same settings you see up here. They're almost identical if you know how to read everything. Shutter speed, F4, F4, no exposure adjustments. All this stuff is just the information in your camera. So this is just a nicer way of looking at this here. So let me close this out. Next, of course, it's going to show you when we go into shoot. C-RAW, same thing, all the same information. Aspect ratio, this is the normal aspect ratio of a camera. Neutral, I'm using a neutral style. And it says here, save to PC. So something that I want everybody to know is, and this is something that actually just showed up yesterday when I downloaded the 3.8 software. Usually on Save To, and maybe someone can answer in the comments if you've ever tried doing the tethering with Evoto before. From what I recall is prior to 3.8, whenever I did tether, I had to have a card in my camera. And when I shot, it would save to the camera, as well as, and we're going to go through this, how Evoto saves the photos to your computer. Yesterday I was doing a test and it was saving just to the computer itself because I actually forgot to put my card in the camera. It's actually in my computer. And that's kind of a good thing. It gives you the option to have a backup source where you can, if you want, you can choose to just shoot to your computer, or you can choose to shoot to the computer and to the camera itself. The camera will always capture the image when you have a card in. If there's any questions about that, while I'm going on, feel free to ask. I have someone monitoring the questions right now. Up here, battery information. It tells you the battery level in your camera. So I'm at 100%, which is nice. Again, the camera. This section here, which says available shots. As of now, you can see what it says. 0x27ED5. Honestly, I don't know what that is. This needs to be addressed, and eventually it will be addressed to show me how many pictures I have left. This is also saving to the computer, not to your camera. So if you look at your camera and it says you have 900 shots left, it's not going to be reflected here because this is actually in the computer itself. So with that said, all this stuff from here up is information you only need. You don't really need it when you're doing the actual shoot. So I like to just close all this down. Everything else from here down is where Evoto's tethering really comes from. Sync with previous and presets. I'm going to go over what this is real quick. Sync with previous, and you'll see this as we're shooting, means that let's say you have a picture in your camera roll and you do some changes to it. It's going to immediately sync the next photo to whatever your previous photo was, as opposed to a preset where you can create your own preset. And with that preset, what you do is every picture is going to have that preset. So even if you do change something in one of the pictures, the next picture will have that same preset. Personally, I prefer to use sync with previous, and you'll see why as we're doing the live shoot. Preview settings, this is also very important. Show newest capture photo. That means as you're shooting on screen, you're going to continually see the next photo, which is what a lot of tethered people like to do, because you have clients and people looking at the photos. You might have your model looking at the photos. Sometimes I shoot little children. The parents get to watch the photos as we go. But you also have another option, which is keep current selection, which can also at some point be very important, and I will show you that as well. The file naming, there are 4 different ways to name. Original file name, there's a sample here. Capture date, you can see the date right up here. It's the first 6 digits. Custom file name, this is also important too. We can change this to our subject's name. Mine happens to be named Gianna. So every shot that I have will say Gianna and then say the number of the picture. I hope that's how you say your name. Yep. Okay, she said yes. Yes. Storage location. This is where you're going to go in and you're going to pick a folder. I picked a folder for this shoot. Every picture, and you're going to need to know this as we go on, will show up in this folder. This is where it's going to capture to your computer. In this case, I just happen to call it tethered capture. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to bring Gianna in now. I'm going to end up, I'm recording this whole session just because somebody asked this question. So you'll be able to go later on, and it'll be posted somewhere for everybody to watch. I know you guys want to hear me more and see me more. Just kidding. So currently, I'm going to bring Gianna in. I am going to, Gianna, say hello to everybody. This is Gianna, everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gianna.
You could tell them your Instagram name, have them follow you online.
Okay, so my Instagram name is Gianna Geraci. You probably can't spell that. It's GIANNAGERACII.
And my name, again, is Adam, and you can find me on Instagram at AdamDPhoto. One thing that I did forget to do was to turn on my flashes. That would definitely help.
Yes, that would help.
Now, Gianna and I have shot before in this studio, and we have a lighting setup that we both really like.
Oh, this lighting is the lighting. It's perfect.
So you're going to see some really nice photos. You're going to see how I shoot with a client when it comes to tethered shooting. The good thing about tethered shooting, too, is that a client can help you along the way. If they want something, they can see it, they can tell you what they want. Usually I don't like editing with my models, but in this case, when you tethered shoot, I mean, it's there. You can't really keep them away. They can fight you on that. We're just getting started with the tethering. I showed people how to set it up. We're going to start the shoot now. So now as I take my first shot, you can see Gianna in the screen. See her right there. Wave, I'm waving. Camera's connected. I'm going to get my flashes set to where they need to be. Just like you do this like you do any normal shoot. The difference is when you tethered shoot, you've got a nice big screen to review the images right in front of you. And I'm going to show you why Evoto's setup is one of the best I've ever seen for tethered shooting. It definitely beats, it is, as of now, it is by far the best. So it might take me a few images. I'm going extra wide on purpose, showing you part of the backdrop. So now you can see an image here. Gianna, stay there for a second. I'm going to do a nice tight one. I'm still adjusting my lights. And the good thing is, as you're shooting, as you can see on screen, I'm adjusting my lighting to get the proper exposure. And I have this great big screen that I can see here what I'm shooting with. And I'm going to go ahead and keep adjusting the lighting until I get them where I want it. So now this is a great picture. So now what I do is, if I really want, we can start, this is where Evoto gets fun with the tethering. Something I want you to notice is that on screen, it's this little image here because we are in, like I said, we're in landscape mode, we're not in portrait mode. But we can go ahead and we can start editing this image. As I told you before, I personally like to use sync with previous, and here's why. When I have this image up, we can have a preset. So just for the preset people out there, once you go to preset, you'll see the presets here, all the different presets that you normally use in your shooting. And that's one great thing with Evoto. So over here are all my actual presets on the left. This is where if you create a preset, it's going to show up here in the preset list. This shows those presets and allows you to pick one. So like I said, if you go ahead and you're working on image and you create your own preset, it's going to show up here, and then you'll be able to access it over here to the right. Even if you change this preset on the left, this is something you need to know. If you go ahead and, let's say I select a Vanessa Joy preset. I don't necessarily like that preset. But on the right, you notice that it's still under black and white male. Let's say I pick that one. So even if you change your preset here, the next image I shoot, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot one, is going to go where the preset is on the Evoto setting on the right. You'll see it's going to process it. Actually, I have to select a preset. To be honest, I don't know why I didn't. I don't think I clicked on it. Do another picture. You can see how it processed, but we can see the before and after here. I don't know what this preset's doing. What I like to do myself is I'm going to go with sync with previous. So again, when you select preset here, I can select, let's say this. You notice how nothing changed? Because these are the active presets. If I select one over here, select one over here, you saw those presets taking effect, but it's not the same as the preset on the right here. This preset that you select on the right will be the one that overrides that when you take the next image. However, if you do have a preset on the left that you like, let's say I like this preset, now I go sync with previous. Every next picture will sync to this image here because I've already applied a preset. So let me take another picture. And you'll notice the picture comes in. Let's do another one. Flashes sometimes have minds of their own. And you're going to notice that it's going to process to the previous, see? It's the same as this one here. Does everyone understand that? I hope everyone understands that. So there's your before and after. But what I'm going to currently do is I'm actually going to go, and some people have asked this before, how do we reset this image? If you look to the top left, and I want you to keep in mind, when you're on sync with previous, which is what I like to use the most, when you're on sync with previous, I'm going to reset the image. A lot of people didn't know this reset was here. That resets everything in the image. So now I'm down to a blank slate. So now what I can do here is I can edit the image. As let's say me and Gianna like. She doesn't like this all the way up. She likes me to remove the freckles, take that down.
Yeah, I definitely get scared of the before and after when I see this.
Let's bring the body blemishes up. Now keep in mind, it's not just, and I want to show you something. So once I get her where I like her, and I'm going to show you something extreme so you understand what's happening. Let's go down to the hair. I'm going to give her red hair. Oh, that's a crazy red. Let's give her purple hair. So you understand what happens here is just like you edit a normal edit in Evoto, you can do all your editing, everything you normally would. What's going to happen here in this next picture, it's going to sync to previous. So everything I've already edited, let's say we want to soften, give her a dodge and burn, smooth out the skin. This is actually a new setup here, but here you can see the before and after.
That's what scares me. It looks so good though.
Ignore the hair. Gianna, the model's looking at the hair and is thinking, wow, that's crazy. It does, so, but what I want you to show you is that, actually, let's even do some skin adjustments. So now, Gianna, let's take another picture.
All right.
Now what I want you to see is the next picture we take. Let's go back there again. You'll see that it's going to process. There's the hair, there's the face. Does everyone understand that? This is why Evoto really stands out from other programs. Because especially to the people that are already editing with Evoto or want to continue to edit with Evoto or are new to Evoto and want to see what it does, this program does some great editing. So now what you're doing is you're using that editing as you shoot the actual photo. So a client could walk over, let me turn off this hair because I don't like it myself. And just so you, again, let's go back to this thing where if I turn off the hair and I adjust anything up here, the next photo is going to sync, as we showed, sync with previous photo. So now we've softened some skin. Is that okay with you, Gianna?
That is amazing. Keep it that way, yep.
Okay, perfect. So now every picture I take, go ahead back in there, we'll take some more. I can take a whole bunch of photos. And what's going to happen is you're going to see these images are scrolling through. And again, there's your before, or there's your after, here's your before. Oops, I missed it. Before and after. And that gets applied to every image. And then if you have a client that you shoot with a lot, yeah, you can make a preset with their name on it. And let's say something's wrong here. Let's say Gianna says she wants different lipstick. Because as you know, Evoto can do makeup. But we're also going to give her some eyelashes.
Oh yeah, I need that.
Eyeshadow. Let's do some eyelashes. Remember, it works with everything, not just your basic adjustments. Do you like that one?
Yes, that looks really good.
Eyeliner.
Much better. Forgot to do my makeup.
So now every picture we shoot, let's do some more, because we're synced with previous, I want to show you something. Purposely, I'm showing you something. This image, as you're looking at, and this is something that you can encounter when you're shooting, tethered shooting, will not be shown on the next image. and I'll tell you why in a second. This is something to keep in mind. So on the next image, it processes it, but you see it didn't do the makeup because I wasn't on the previous photo. I was further in. I was editing a different photo. And I want you to notice that because this can happen. So how do we fix this? We're just going to go edit. We're going to copy. We're going to go to the last image. We're going to go paste. Now we just added those presets with the makeup. So now that it's on this last image, every image from here on out will sync. I hope everyone understands that. Now something I also do want to show you is on the left side, you have your view options. In this case, I'm shooting RAW and I'm shooting JPEG. You can choose which one of those you want to look at. There's a lot of choices here. In my case, I want to go file type to the left, and I just want to look at the JPEG images. It's half of those. The RAWs are still here. You can also rate your images. Let's say that's a 5. And if I go to rating, I can view by my rating. You can do this sometimes at the end of a session, or if you have a client that is rating as you go. So I can choose to just look at the 5-star ratings, and you'll see it's just this one image. Again, I'm going to go back to JPEG. You can also view TIFFs. You can view PNGs. I can't read that. I don't know what that HEIC. I don't shoot that way. You can go to your edited. Any photo that I've actually edited will show up in this folder here. It won't show you all of them because some of them I didn't edit at the beginning. Your unedited, let's see, these are the ones I haven't touched yet. Edited photos. If you export, you can see, and this goes with even the regular Evoto screen, not just Tethered, where you can see what you've exported. I haven't exported anything. But again, I'm going to go to File and just look at JPEGs. Is everyone understanding that part of this? If you guys want to comment anything, I have someone monitoring the comments, she'll be able to tell me. Also, keep in mind, and I'm going to show you a few other things too, and this is where Evoto really, really, really shines. A little bit of wrinkles, right, in the clothing. This just isn't the portrait editor. It's everything that you do within Evoto. So what's happening here? Let me explain what is happening here. As you're taking the image, this image is being stored locally on your computer, same way it would be stored on in your camera. So technically, it's being reopened by Evoto, and it's just being edited. The same way you would normally take your card, and you would put your card in the computer, and you would put these into a project. But what Evoto is doing for you is it's automatically grabbing those images and putting them in the project. And you're doing this live, so people can see it as you go. And what happens is your clients can see as you're shooting. And I kind of like that. I kind of like the eyeshadow. Eyelashes.
I do. It looks good.
So that's what the advantage of tethering and the advantage of Evoto. And back to what I was saying now, it's not just the actual person that we can edit. Let's go into clothing. Let's do the de-wrinkle. I'm going to do a lot of extremes here so you can see. You might do this in your normal editing. Think about the bottom, where the picture roll is, as the pictures you normally edit. Do your normal edit. Because they are. They're just there exactly how you would put them in Evoto yourself. So as you can see here, before and after the wrinkled clothes. Before and after. So now, and you can also see the eyes up here. So now every picture, let's go take a picture. Let's make sure everything's nice and wrinkly. So you'll see that the image is going to come in. It's going to process. There goes the wrinkles. You see the eyeshadow. See how nice it looks. Beautiful photo. Gianna comes over here. Let's say she wasn't watching the whole time. I say, hey, you want to come over? You want to come over here and check out your photos? And she looks at it, she goes, oh my God, I look great. And for a second there, she thinks, I don't remember putting on makeup. So this is an amazing photo. I hope everybody likes it. But keep in mind too, it also, you can do anything here. And something over here on the right side I want to show you as well as this left side. It's more when you're in the portrait mode, when you're shooting portraits. All these sections here, just by clicking them, let's say you're in clothing adjustment, if I just click it, notice it goes away. So when you're shooting portrait mode, you can get this on a really big screen. You just hide the stuff on the left, hide the stuff on the right, hide the stuff on the left, you just, again, click that there. You don't have to look at it all the time. So even with this down, let's take another picture. Remember, everything's still active over here. So I can take another picture. I don't know. We'll find out in a second. Nope. And there goes the processing.
Oh, and it's still like put it on perfectly, even though I was like looking up.
Yeah,
Like, that's cool.
that's Evoto. She loves Evoto. She thinks it's really cool. But also, I want you to see here under the background adjustments. Let's say I want to, if I was normally editing this photo and I picked a blue background. All right, let's take a photo. It's going to process it. It's going to change it to blue. Let me turn this off, and I want you to see one of Evoto's newest features.
That's nice.
Yeah, but you're going to love this one. This is new to Evoto, this new distraction removal, which actually can expand a background, and that's why we're shooting here. Go ahead and stand there. I want everybody to be really watching this one. Because again, it's everything you do in Evoto. You still have full control to the Tethered. But keep this in mind too. The pictures on the bottom are not the pictures that are actually being taken. They're the pictures that are being edited. So until you export these, they're just right here. If you go back to your camera roll where the pictures are stored, they're not going to look like this. They're going to be the original photo. So I did this purposely to show the distractions, but I turned on the distraction removal.
I like that.
Now, when you have clients, and this is one thing I absolutely love about tethering, and many people probably haven't thought about this way. If all you use with Evoto is the background cleaner, because I haven't cleaned the backdrop yet. Let me clean the backdrop. Unfortunately, this is a really clean backdrop. But as you see here, how nice that is now. What I like to do when I'm tethering is, even if I don't want to edit the person at all, and I have paper. Let me show everybody. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. Well, my paper rolls are up there. Good thing is I can show you the images. My paper rolls are up there. Let me get rid of that image. When the paper's down, let's say the paper's dirty, and one thing that really turned me on to Evoto originally was the backdrop cleaner. It is second to none. So if I have a client and I'm shooting the pictures, even if I just leave something as simple as the backdrop cleaner on, there's a lot of noise around here, I don't know if you guys heard that. Even if I do something as simple as leaving the backdrop cleaner on, that is totally worth tethering with Evoto. No other program does this. No other program comes close to this. Is there any questions about any of this so far? I'll give it about 10, 15 seconds because that's about what our delay is. And then I do want to show you something. You can tell.
The watermark, it's not showing what you're doing.
Yes, everything is showing up exactly as somebody asked about the tether. You see that? Yes. When you're in the tethered screen itself, yes, it should show up. The watermark is always there. Everybody knows that unless you're in the Develop tab. And keep in mind, when you go to the Develop tab, as many users know, unless you're doing turn the real time off, the watermark will be there. So what I want to show you here now is you can also use this section too. Let's go really warm with this image, maybe tinted pink. I hope everyone's getting the point of what this tether. So Gianna, take another picture. Now, because actually this won't sync. I'm going to have to do 2 shots on this. And what I want you to notice, actually, everybody watching the screen now, notice that I have these on, but remember, my last shot was this one here where nothing was on. I just shot a shot to get rid of the backdrop paper. It's not going to do this. It's not going to process at all. So if this ever happens to you, you're going to notice that, see how these went back to normal? Because the image that I did it is all the way down here. So if I want, this was fully processed, I can, again, copy, go to my last image, and then there it is. And you notice again when you're in the, now every image from here on out will have this last image's picture. So let's take an image. If you're doing the presets, it will always go back to the presets, so you don't have to worry about that. Another quick thing I want to show you, we're going to get to some questions soon, very soon. Let me go back here. Actually, if there's any questions for a second, feel free to ask. Somebody's going to monitor the question for me. Hopefully something comes up. Nothing. That, we're not going to discuss the payments right now and stuff. There are some reps from Evoto here. This is just dealing with the tethering right now. Okay, so I want to go back to, real quick, to show you the preview image settings and why this is important. If you're on the show newest capture photo, it's always going to show the newest capture. So if I have a client, let's say, who's looking at the screen, and you're shooting and they're looking at the screen, well, the next image, let's say I take a picture of Gianna, let's say they're looking at this image, and me as a photographer takes another image, you're going to see that the image is going to change. And they're like, wait a second, I was looking at that image. We need to take another one.
Oh my.
So it's just going to keep changing. When you're on the keep current selection, this is something as tethered shooting, this could be very important, and I'll show you why. Let's say I want to edit this image here. And I don't want it to keep jumping to that next image, and I want to continue looking at this image. So now I changed it here to keep current selection, but I want you to look at the bottom roll here. Even though as a photographer, I'm just doing my shoot, let's say I'm doing a fashion catalog and the client has a computer, they are editing while I'm still shooting with the model. They're going to be able to continually to edit that one photo. They can start doing their own work. So if you notice on the bottom right, how you'll see here that the photos are still coming in as normal. But they didn't change while I was shooting. And that's a good thing. Sometimes that's what you're going to want. You're going to want to be able to stay on one image, focus on that image, and if there's, let's say, someone doing your editing for you, and they come up, let's say the client is coming up with a good edit, and they say, this is what I want. Let's say they're working down here on this picture. And they go ahead and they edit this picture. They say, hey, I want her with different colored hair. And they changed, what's the question? You can read it to me.
How are lights set up? And what is best to set up?
How are
Save images to PC or both PC and in camera card?
That's really, setting up images to record on both the PC and the camera card, that's really up to you. Typically, I will do both because you have backups. But I do trust, when I noticed that I didn't have my card in my camera at the time and it was still functioning, I didn't bother putting the card in the camera because, one, I wanted to talk about it, and two, I also feel very secure with the camera going to the computer has it's a Mac with an SSD. I trust them both, but I trust the computer more than I trust the card and the camera. As many people know, they talk about having dual cards. If you can get dual card slots, get dual card slots for redundancy. You do have some redundancy if you put the camera or the card in the camera versus the computer. But if I had to choose only one, it would be the computer. But I will do both 95% of the time. The only reason I didn't do that for this demo was that I left my card in the computer. And when I started shooting, I didn't even think about it until I realized, oh, I don't have a card. My camera tells me I don't have a card in there, but I'm ignoring that because I'm storing to the computer. But back to where I was before, let's say you have a client editing this picture, and they say, okay, this is the edit I want. They say they want her to have this pinkish red hair. Just go, and they don't want that green. This image, they want to shoot everything from here on. Again, copy. Go to the very last image. We're going to paste that. And now, let's go ahead and shoot some more. Now every image will have that same look going forward. And if you have a client that always wants to do this, you can say, they give you this, say, this is what I want from now on. Just store that as a preset and then use it in the preset section. That way your model comes in, it's the same model, you don't have to do anything. But the odds of you always using one preset for multiple people, it's not normal. And like I said, if you're using the preset function, let me show you again the preset function. If you're using the preset function versus sync with previous. So if you're on preset, so if I go to a preset now, it's going to use the preset that I choose. The problem is, what if that preset didn't necessarily look good and I modify something? Let's say I modify something, but I forgot to change the preset to sync with previous. That modification will go away with my next shot because it's going to default back to the preset. Another thing I want to show you, and this is something very important. Keep in mind, everybody, that when you're doing this, the Evoto roll down at the bottom is just the images that are intercepted from your computer into Evoto and show up here so you can edit them. They are in your computer. If you're shooting with a card, they are in your computer and on a card. And this is something you should know for sure. So let's take these pictures where I showed you my backdrops. I need to go back to the JPEGs, but so these are my two backdrop images, right? And I don't really want them. So let's say I'm in Evoto and I go take this one for example, and I go delete, and I go to delete it, ask me do I want to delete. Let's say I delete it, and I think I deleted the image. This is important to know. You did not delete the image. You just removed it from Evoto itself. I hope everyone understands that. So in order to delete this image, you need to go to the folder where this image was being stored. An easy way to do that is to go here on the bottom, you select the image and you say open file location. Unfortunately for me, it opened on another screen. Let me see the screen. So I want you to notice in Evoto what's about to happen. Everyone can see here, it opened in another screen, which I have access to here. When I delete this from the computer itself, you will notice that this image says missing file. And this is something that comes up with a lot, and it will come up a lot in Tethered, it will come up a lot here as well. If I just delete it here, it's still going to be in the computer. Like if I go delete and I say yes. But I've opened the file location. Doesn't want to move over. Oh, that's why. So this is the actual image that's in the computer itself. These two images are these two images here, the RAW and the JPEG. If I delete the JPEG, once I did that, watch what happens when I come back to Evoto. You see that it shows a missing file now? because I deleted it. Now I could delete it from here. It's already gone off the computer. If for some reason I need this back, I have to locate go into my trash, undelete this file. In this case, I want to delete it. So that was the JPEG. Let me show you something with the RAW. If I go to the RAW and I go to delete, some people will think, okay, I deleted the image. But did you? You didn't. Now, as you notice here, see this image, the RAW of the paper? It's still in my computer. Make sure you delete this too, or else you are taking up storage thinking that you did delete the photo. No, it's still here. You deleted it out of Evoto. You did not delete the source file. It's still here. And it's a raw image. Now we want to move that to the trash. Now it's completely gone. Are there any more questions? Let's start with some questions. While you're asking some questions, I do want to show you something.
Is there an app version for Evoto for phone-based editing?
There is an iPad version right now. There is not a phone version right now. It just came out. It's in beta testing. Catherine can give you the information on that. I'm sure she'll probably send you a link. Don't forget too, and something I did forget to mention, during this webinar, there is going to be a purchase link that's been showing up in the comments. If you are new to Evoto, or if you already have Evoto and want to buy more credits, click on that purchase link. It'll help you get either started or add more credits if you need to add more credits. And that helps me out a lot in this during this webinar. Yes, there will be a recording of this. Something I do want to show you, and I'm doing this now. Everyone's got the small screen there. When we normally tethered shoot, we're going to tethered shoot not in landscape mode, unless all your pictures are in landscape, then leave it here. But for the most part, and you won't be able to see this on your screen, so if you look at us down on the bottom here, I want to show you something.
Would it tether to the iPad wireless?
No, it will not. There is no wireless tethering with Evoto. None at all. It's all wired. And not to the iPad. It's only to computers. I want you to look at the my screen here. I'm going to change the scene so you can see it bigger. Everyone can hopefully see the picture as I turn Evoto sideways. I want you to look at this now. I just did some screenshots so you can see. This is something that almost every tethered shooter does, and I'll probably leave this on while I answer some questions. So now this is the image you see when you have the full screen on. Look how much more you get here. But remember what I told you earlier, is any of these sections on the right, you can turn these off, and when you turn them off, you're going to get even a much bigger screen. And this is one of the things I really do love about Evoto. It's just a really nice look. So now look at this. I want everyone to see this. Now you could see this beautiful image that we would be working with. So if I was shooting with Gianna, every image would show it this big. Every image would process. It would change the backdrops. It would do everything we already showed you. Remember, when you're tethering with Evoto, again, just to recap, you're going into your computer. The images are going into your computer. Evoto is capturing those images into a folder, opening those images into Evoto, and then doing the edits the same way you would do the edits on your own. You can edit them on your own, or you can tell it to follow the previous image, and just use it for what it's worth. And like I said, backdrop cleaners, and anything you want, hair color, makeup suite, everything that you would do in a normal edit would show up in the tethered program. So as Jana showed you before, when we were doing the images, she really liked it. She saw it, she saw the makeup. She's like, oh, I do like that. So as you can see the difference in size from this to this. And Evoto does a really great job in tethering. It works very well. It's very solid. Let me go back to the questions. Someone who said they can't seem to get their camera connected. This is important. Make sure, like I said at the beginning of this webinar, the way you plug your camera in makes a difference. So you might plug in your camera first, then plug into the computer second. You might have to plug it into your camera, turn the camera on, then plug into your computer. That's the way it works best for me. And also make sure you have a decent cable. A cheap cable sometimes will never work. Does anybody, just a quick question, does anybody have a question for Gianna? You want to come over here? Just in case you have a question for when you're tethered shooting. Her experience is different than our experience as the editor and as the photographer. The models, the clients have their own experience. And I'm just going to ask her, do you like the tethering?
Oh, I mean, okay. I love it so much because sometimes when I see the pictures, I'm like, ooh, like, you're going to have to fix that up later. But then when it like shows just like that, I'm like, okay, wait, keep taking more. Like, these actually look really, really good. So personally, I love it. But
And I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe someone down here in the comments will ask. If I set that up where I was doing your shoot and I was tethering with Evoto and you didn't know that I had done that,
yeah.
and you came over and saw the picture and it was done, what would you say? Like, go look at that picture that's on there now. What would you say? Just walk over here, take you over and you look at the screen and you go?
I would be like, I didn't know I looked that good. But I'd be like, honestly.
She does look that good. She knows
know.
it. But
no.
it's that the fact that you can have the image edited as your client looks at it and goes, oh, excellent, great job, photographer. Not
Yes.
realizing, keep in mind, you can do a lot of things. As we know, Evoto does a lot of things. We can slim her down. She doesn't need to be slimmed down. She weighs like, what, 90, 80 pounds, maybe 50 pounds. So she doesn't need it, but you might have a client that needs more work. You might have a client with really bad skin. You might have a client that wants to be a little slimmer, a little taller. I can make her taller in the images.
Yeah,
You can do all that work, and the client comes and looks at the photos and it's like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. You're a great photographer. Evoto makes you a great photographer. They see that and they think, you did that. You know, the lighting, the setup, everything did that. And they're happy, you're happy.
Pictures look great.
Pictures look great, and when you have a paid client, they might even throw you some extra money. Does that ever happen? Yeah, it happens sometimes. But they might say, you know, you did such a great job, not realizing that you, yeah, did you trick them? Yeah, but this is the editing you're going to go home and do anyways. So why not just start it so the client can see it? So that's the really huge advantage of Evoto versus any other program on the market. No one does this. No one can edit the photo and have it show up right away so that your clients are very happy when they see that. And to be honest, it's a great reason just to, if you're not invested in Evoto right now, but you're interested in tethered shooting, this is the way to go. You could tether with other programs. They don't do this for you. Let me go back to the questions. Yes, with Evoto, you do need to be connected to the internet. How do you make right and left columns reduce? Wait, are you referring to the right and left? So the right columns, just click on the icon. I'll show you. So when you're on your screen, just go to the icon that you see on the screen. Like this is my tethered icon. Just click it. Whatever icon you're on at the time. And keep this in mind, something that I want everybody to understand. When you are tethered shooting, and this is actually something I forgot to mention that I said I was going to mention, and I got sidetracked. And this is important, when you are in tethered shooting, you don't have to stay, as you saw, I was changing different modes. You see the little white dot underneath the camera symbol? That means you're active tethering. But you can be on anything you want, or, like I just said, you can completely close them. And the one on the left, when you click on it, it shows up. Just click on the icon again, and it goes away. Does that answer your question? If you miss some spots, if there's some spots that Evoto missed, you have to go to the healing brush on the top left. Go back to portrait. For example, these hairs. But this is not necessarily another demo. But let's say we wanted to clean up these hairs. We can, you know, just like normal. Same thing with the backdrop. You'd have to make it, you know, up here I could see some lines there. I don't know if you could see this on the screen, but I see some lines. You have to do it manually. There's no way to automatically do it. And yes, I'm very familiar with the R series. It's USB-C to whatever your computer has. You can buy USB-C to USB-A. I'm using a Mac which has USB-C. I'm USB-C to USB-C, so that's just the way Canon is. I knew somebody was going to ask me that question. Sure, I'll show you. Gianna, this is for us.
Oh boy.
Go stand back there. I'm doing a little trick in my photography. I knew this was going to come up. Yes, this is my own self-promotion. Again, I'm Adam D. Photo on Instagram, Adam D. Photo. And who are you again on Instagram? There's the mic.
Gianna Geraci.
Gianna Geraci with 2 I's. Spell that.
Gianna-Geracii.
Cool. And I'm doing that because I'm about to indulge myself. So usually when you do a shoot like this, we're using a fashion lighting. And in my studio, it's not that small, but it's not that big. And I hate setting up a 7-foot umbrella. And I'm going to show you in pictures, a set of curtains. So I have a gigantic, I use these curtains for other things like boudoir or even maternity shoots, weddings. I do a lot of brides in front of the curtain, directly at the curtain. But what I do here is I use that also to create a gigantic, it's almost a 9x9 light source. So I don't have to open my 7-foot umbrella. And then I'm using a small key light to the left to give a little catch light in the eye. I don't always use that when I do this setup. Sometimes I could just turn that light off. It definitely adds a little more contrast to the photo. Here, take another photo with me. I'm actually going to turn that light off. Now you're making me indulge myself. If I turn that light off, you'll notice that the image is a little flatter. And honestly, I really love this quality of light by just using the light that's coming through. Oh, I'm on show current photo, that's why. Let's see, sometimes you just got to remember where you are. See, this light, the catch light, is actually coming from the curtain itself, as opposed to some of the other pictures where you could see the other catch light here. There's 2 catch lights, but I knew somebody was going to comment on the lighting, because I do like this lighting. Let's see what else we have. Again, there's no special cable. There's the cable that works for you. There's the USB. If you have USB-C in your camera, it's going to be USB-C. If you have USB micro, mini, you have to look at your camera. Not all cameras can tether because they might not have the USB out or the ability to tether. You just have to make sure your camera is able to do it. And then to your computer, USB-A or USB-AC, whichever one works for you. Oh, just to show somebody another point on my studio setup here. I also on the right have another pop-up backdrop similar to what you would use as a V-flat. And that's just sending the light from the curtains back in on her. And some manufacturers do offer tethered cables. Keep your eye out. Sometimes, if you see a manufacturer selling their tethered cable, usually they're tested and they work great for their product. So keep your eyes out for stuff like that. Oh, Leo asks, when the photos are exported, does the watermark transfer as well? When you export, the watermark goes away. I've explained this before to some people just so you understand what the watermark is for. When you're editing and you're using Evoto and you do all this wonderful work by using the software. Let's say you didn't buy a credit. Well, you can't export the photo because of the watermark. That prevents you from using the software and getting the image for free by just simply taking a screenshot. Somebody asked me to post a link for a tethered cable. Amazon, that's the link. Or just wait to, like I said, keep in mind some manufacturers do offer their own cables that have been tested and work great for their programs. Just keep an eye out for stuff like that. Catherine says, would you want the watermark goes away when you do tethering? You can't have it go away when you're editing. If somebody asks me, can you have it go away when you're doing tethered shoot, and you're looking at the images without any of the editing, same way as when you're in the develop tab and you do turn off the real time and you can see the image without the watermark, but you see the edits go away, yes, that would be really nice to be able to use if you're just using it as a monitor without the editing. Keep this in mind, and this is for Jeff. It's where you said you add a watermark to the file and export it. How do you remove it after the client purchases it? Well, keep in mind, with Evoto, when you export an image, you can export it as many times as you want, as long as the source file and the other files are still active. So you give them the one with the watermark, and as soon as they tell you which ones you want, and you export, you can export again for free. It doesn't cost you any money to export. You export now the image without the watermark. Yeah, Jeff, that's what I'm referring to. If you add the watermark, and let's say they see the watermark, and you give it to the client with the watermark, because you wanted your watermark there for the client picks that image, pays you for that image, just export it again without the watermark. It doesn't cost you any more to export it twice. When using a full paper backdrop, when you use remove distractions, does it fill the screen, full screen like it did when you were using the shot early? Yes, it does. I'm going to go back to that image. So here's the image here. And if I go back to my editing and I go back to my backdrops, you'll see I have distractions removed. If I turn that off, this is, so I got into Evoto for a few reasons. One was cleaning the backdrops. That is huge. Two was taking care of my blemishes. That stuff, those two things alone took me 15, 20 minutes, maybe 5 when I'm more quick. Cleaning backdrops, sometimes they take forever. I was researching quicker ways to clean backdrops and stumbled upon Evoto when it was at the beginning, when that was just one of some of the functions. It has so many more functions now from the time where I first got into Evoto. This distraction removal is up there with one of the best features in any software. And I'll show you why here. You push that, it's gone. I did a shot with a bunch of guitars, and the guitars overlapped my paper in my studio. The distraction removal not only masked out the guitars, but then it got rid of everything on the sides. It was one of the most incredible things I've seen a photo editing program do in a very long time. I might be able to show you, if anybody's interested, I could show you those pictures. Something to keep in mind too, before somebody asks this, know that distraction removal is not generative fill in other programs. Somebody asked this in the Facebook group and I answered it for them. They said, can you expand the photo, like maybe make it wider, crop it wider? No, you can't do that. You're still limited within the bounds of the image itself. That could change in the future. And don't forget again, there is a purchase link in the comments. If you want to purchase some credits, or if you're new to Evoto and you want to purchase your first credits, it's a great program. You cannot go wrong. Again, at Instagram, it's AdamD, as in dog, AdamD.photo, AdamD.photo. I do a lot of the YouTube videos. I have my own YouTube channel. It's under, I think, AdamD Photo Video. You can also find my Facebook page. Facebook, just look up AdamD Photo Video. Follow my YouTube page. And again, going back to, Evoto, here's the distraction removal. Just a great new feature. I'll answer this question, even though it's not really necessarily dealing with the tethering. Yes, if you purchase your images or purchase your credits, they do expire in 1 year. Evoto is one company that listens to its users probably more than any other company I've ever seen in my life. If you're about to expire, and let's say you bought 1,200 credits and you still got 400 left, reach out to them. They might be able to extend your expiration date. Somebody asked, what are the conditions? The conditions, honestly, just reach out, be nice about it, and they're very, very grateful to help their customers. It's a great growing company. It's by far the best editor to hit the market since I think the cavemen were doing wall drawings, hieroglyphics. Now Gideon, your name is Gideon, keep in mind, you say you have unused credits, but is your expiration time up yet? Just make sure, they've got to be expired. I'm going to end this now. I will be posting a replay. I'm actually going to be editing the replay so you don't have to listen to a lot of things, but you'll be able to rewatch it again. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me again on Instagram. Instagram, look up adamd.photo and find me there, or just type adamdphoto or adamd.photo. Either one's going to find me. And feel free to message me. I'll answer any questions you have. I have actually worked with a couple people where I've done some videos for them so that if they have a question, I might be able to film something for them so they understand. Whatever I can do to help out, and Evoto, whatever they can do to help out, we're all here for you. We're all here for the customers. and we want this to be a great experience for everyone.